We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
everything theater. Everything theater. Hi there, I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs. And to kickstart us today, I want to let everyone know that we are sponsored by the Capital Region Festival of Theater, or CRAFT for short. So if you're in the Capital Region in New York and you think, man, there's so many great theaters, so much great work going on, you're absolutely right. And we're celebrating it starting this year with a big theater festival in June. But to kickstart that, there is a cast party to benefit the festival to kind of kickstart things. And it's going to be on October 27th. 27th, yes, at 5 p.m. at the Cohoes Music Hall. And let's see, what is it going to be? It's going to be a night of song, drama, and more. It will feature announcements dealing the 4-day region-wide festival in June, a giant cast photo where they'll be taken of all the local theaters participating. There'll be light refreshments and desserts from some of the culinary powerhouses in the Spindle City, and a cash bar available, and performances by new, current, and past residents of the area. So it's going to prove that the Capital Region is a great place to love theater your whole life long. So grab tickets.
Are you going to perform, Ellen?
I'm not going to perform, but I'm going to be there watching the performances.
Me too. I'll only been home a week from out at the Majestic, and I know you're going to be getting ready to do another show, and it's a busy time of year. So bravo to all those who have signed on to ply their trade on the stage.
Yes, exciting.
One such person, but I don't believe he's performing in that, but he has performed extensively around the Capital Region, and other stuff. And it's the other stuff that we've got him here. We've got David Bunce with us tonight, and welcome. And you were a SEPA for many years, and you've toured. There's not much you haven't done. And behind you, over David's, well, it looks like left when you're looking at it, but it's his right shoulder, is the poster for Red Maple.
I really didn't do that on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, of course you did. A play that he wrote that premiered at Capitol Rep to wonderful reviews, and is now, I think, did you wrap up? You were at Curtain Call?
Closed yesterday.
Wrapped up, bravo there. And so we got a lot to talk about, but what started the conversation while we reached out to you, David, is about and many actors know about something called a fight call. Prior to call to get on stage, if there is any kind of fighting, any kind of hand-to-hand, anything that's, a little rumble is considered a fight. And you have a rehearsal beforehand to make sure that everybody knows where everybody's going, so somebody doesn't get clipped in the kisser when they weren't expecting it. It's choreographed.
Yes.
You used to be known as they were certified fight coordinators. But as we got chatting before we turned on the official part, give us the 411. A lot of stuff has changed.
Well, not a whole lot. It's just that the Society of American Fight Choreographers, years and years and years ago, stopped using the word certified. Really, they didn't want to have liability for saying they certified somebody and then somebody went out and did something and got hurt, So it really was just a change of using that word.
But that's interesting. If I heard you were certified, the general, I would say, okay, good, I'm in good hands. This person knows what they're doing. Now, anytime Dick and Harry's going to just say, oh, don't hit him over there. How do we know who's good?
There's certainly training. There's certainly a lot to learn. Basically, they changed to things like proficiency. You study first, you become an actor combatant, which is you become proficient in 3 weapon systems. The Society of Make and Fight Directors recognizes 8 weapon systems, and if you become proficient in 3, you're an actor combatant. If you become proficient in 6, you're an advanced actor combatant, and then you can study to become a certified, well, not certified, but a teacher or a fight director or things of that nature. And to be honest, I only went as far as an advanced actor combatant. I studied enough for 6 weapon systems, but because I was the resident fight guy for the Theater Institute, I took that and then studied on my own, and
what do you mean weapon systems? I could joke and say one is my hand, one is my tongue, because you can be a little cutting the way you talk sometimes. But what do you mean?
Well, it's basically how to use a weapon. I mean, one weapon system is hand-to-hand combat, and it would include wrestling, punching, anything else. I mean, it can also include, I did at least 5 productions of Noises Off over the years, because I was teaching people how to roll down the stairs, fall down the stairs, trip over furniture, all the slapstick stuff. So it can entail stuff like that for the unarmed or the hand-to-hand stuff. But then it might be broadsword is a weapon system, rapier and dagger is a weapon system. So throughout history, there were all different time periods where there were different kinds of weapons used. Especially edge weapons are effective on stage. A gun on stage is not very effective. I mean, either somebody's going to shoot it or not, and it's going to go off or not, and it's kind of a one-time thing. But if 2 people are going to go at each other with sharp pieces of steel, it can be a much more extended sort of a conflict and things like that. So the weapon systems are basically how to use different weapons. And, over the years throughout history, people have worked very hard to figure out how to hurt each other. So they've worked very hard to figure out how to use different sorts of weapons.
At what point would a fight does a fight have to be choreographed? I think about Sweeney Todd. And there was a razor on stage, ideally a fake razor, unless you work with someone who thinks they need a real one. But anyway, and they didn't get it. But that's brandished. Does that mean you need a fight coordinator?
I don't know if it's, a plastic razor and the actors are comfortable, but if somebody's taking even a prop razor and putting it against somebody else's neck or drawing it across their neck or something like that, the actors may feel a lot safer if somebody is working with them. There's also blood effects in Sweeney, right? And the fight choreographer could be helpful in guiding whoever's doing the blood effects. They might work together. You do things like study anatomy. Just where is the jugular and what's going to happen if it's severed,
Wow.
You study things. because for those instances when it's real or supposed to be real, supposed to appear real and life and death, and let's face it, edged weapons are sharp, so you're either getting poked or cut, and so you kind of have to study what happens.
It's interesting the point you bring up, Anita, of what moments need to be looked at. I remember doing A Midsummer Night's Dream at Capitol Rep, and we had a fight sequence with the lovers that we ran every day for fight call. But there was this prior scene where all my character had to do was run across the stage, stop, and pivot very quickly to stop someone. And as the run went on, my knee started getting more and more inflamed because I wasn't turning very well on it. And so I talked to the fight coordinator, and he was like, we need to look at that, a fight call. And just that little moment, in the body, like was not right. And he helped me figure out how to safely do that so I wasn't injuring my knee in that little pivot.
Yeah,
So
it can be a single thing. I mean, sometimes it's a single slap. And not only how do you do that safely, but how do you deflect the audience's attention so that they're not seeing it coming and it's not just a stagey type thing, that it's a surprise. A fight choreographer gets into that kind of stuff as well.
Most challenging that you had to deal with?
Actors who are afraid, because people get afraid, they get tensed up or something like that. I wasn't actually the fight choreographer, but I was actually in a production of Othello once where the Othello started to get aggressive and started to get kind of tight on his choking at Desdemona, and she got scared to death. And the fight choreographer absolutely had to step in that instance. But when people are afraid, so part of my, a lot of times my job is to make the actors feel really, really comfortable in performing the violence. It's amazing how many actors don't have much experience. Even if they've had a lot of experience acting, they don't necessarily have much experience with violence, physical acting of that sort. And then it's as much about finding a way to make them comfortable with it as anything.
So what would you list as the top 3 most important things when it comes to teaching a fight?
Well, I always tell people a fight is on stage or in a film is 3 things. First, if it's between 2 people, it's a dance. It is choreographed moves that you give and receive energy. You exchange your balance points so that you actually work together. And there's a lot of moves in a 2-person conflict where one might actually be supporting the other while acting like they want to kill the other. So it is a choreographed dance. It is a magic show, because what the audience is seeing and hopefully believing is not what is actually happening. And then thirdly, it's mostly an acting exercise. If you act it, they'll believe it. If you, I have, I've taught classes where we've just worked on our hurt breathing. Just like you're hurt, breathe like you're hurt. So, it's harder if somebody doesn't know, if an actor or a character is supposed to be really proficient in something, swordplay, and is starting from 0, then you've got to do an awful lot of teaching to sort of get them up to speed. We all hear in films that some famous actor trained for 6 months for the fighting of a film or something like that. So, I know, Benita, one that was really tough to figure out to choreograph was a production of Dial M for Murder. And the woman in it, I think I have the right play, the woman in it is supposed to stab the intruder with scissors in the back and kill him. And in the production I was working on, the woman was 5'1", 100 pounds, and the intruder was like 6 foot, 200 pounds. And really, it's supposed to come out of a physical struggle between the 2 of them, that she comes out the winner by stabbing him in the back with these scissors. And so I had to try and figure out how that could be logical for the audience to buy it.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing her stabbing him in the high knee, and that's a little problem given the height difference.
Yeah, and it's not a comedy. So, and it's like, the climax of the show. So, um, so that was kind of a tough puzzle to figure
So
out.
walk us through it.
I don't remember what I did.
It was the magic.
It was 25 years ago. I don't remember what I did. But I remember that was the challenge, to figure out how the little person could overpower the big person in that situation.
Ever have one where you thought it was you buttoned it up and then you sit in the audience and maybe it's opening night and woo, baby, did that go down the wrong track?
Almost everything I've ever done, I wished I could take another crack at it, or take a little more time, or I immediately see things I would have wished I had done different. And it's usually stuff that the illusion is not as good as I thought the illusion looked. And I'm sitting there thinking, the audience can sort of tell this, It's always a fascinating puzzle to try and figure out. The best fight I ever saw on the stage was on Broadway for the play Jerusalem. And it's about this sort of older ne'er-do-well. Oh God, I forget the actor's name. Anyway, he's living in a trailer, and he's basically shacking up with this young woman. And late in the play, her two older brothers come to beat the living heck out of that guy. And what they did was, he ran into the trailer, they ran in after him. There was all kinds of tremendous commotion. There were stagehands, I'm sure, shaking the trailer. And then he came out 5 minutes later, covered in blood, like he was just beaten
Very
senseless.
Greek.
It was great. Never saw it. It was the most real fight I had ever seen on the stage, because it was all in my mind. And that taught me, the less the audience sees, the more real the whole thing is.
And I mean that. And the Greeks never showed you the violence.
Right. It was, it happened in front of us, in that the thing shook.
Right.
I could just imagine there's stagehands shaking the thing. He's back there probably with two people doing his makeup.
Right.
He's coming out, covered in blood.
He had a quick coffee, and
But yeah, they're all making tremendous noises in there, yelling and screaming, and there's all the banging and stuff like that. And I'll never forget it. It was just amazing. And I never saw any of it.
But your mind's eye did.
Yeah, sometimes.
Who makes the decision? So I'm in the show now, we're doing Sheer Madness, and there is a slap. It's a real slap. Ellen saw it.
You're really doing it.
It's a real slap. In fact, when we did it at Lake George, it was a real slap too. One hit. I don't hit. It's not I just watch it.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. I never feel it's necessary. Even in the round, I could do it, so the audience thought it was real.
And that's got me thinking that maybe we need to rethink that moment. And we need a fight coordinator to come and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't have to hit him in the mouth, on the side of the face. Some days he gets him full flesh on, some days, but the timing should be such. So my question is, when you're in a show, you actors listening to this, at what point, if the director doesn't bring in a fight coordinator, should the actor say, hello, I think that we're missing something here. Can we get a fight coordinator?
The minute an actor feels uncomfortable, they should either say, I'm feeling uncomfortable in this. Can you, if you're, the director or somebody else involved, does anybody know what they're doing and can help me with this? Because I feel uncomfortable. And if not, can we get somebody who knows what they're doing? My when I was in undergraduate school and college, one of my roommates, another actor, we did a show, and I didn't know any better at the time. Nobody around us did, and the director said, just do the slap. A woman slapping him across the face. Cupped it on the ear one day, popped his eardrum.
Yep. Actually, the last
So
show I did, there were 2 slaps. I had to do one of them. First person felt comfortable with the contact slap, and when it came to blocking my scene, I said, "No, I don't want to be responsible for accidentally." And even though I've been trained and I know how to do it, like I don't want to do a contact slap. And so mine was non-contact, and then the other person ended up switching theirs to a non-contact because it ended up looking better actually than the contact slap.
when I trained with the Society of American Fight Directors, who there are other entities in the country, but they're sort of the most well known and probably have the best
I'm
credentials.
sorry, the which group?
Society of American Fight Choreographers, SAFD, or Fight Directors rather. They said there is one legitimate slap in the face when you walk up to somebody and go, that's it. Otherwise, you have no need to actually make contact with that other person. It can always be worked out. It can always be, made safe and made to seem real.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I haven't seen your play. I don't want to say anything about your play, but
It's not my play. I'm just an actor in it.
that's my experience.
I didn't direct it. I'm just a hired help.
How long on average do you have to work with the actors in a typical production that needs a fight choreographer?
Never enough time is the first answer. And directors always call fight choreographers in too late. It's the most common thing is like a week before opening, somebody says, okay, now let's have the person in, and can you do it? And if I give you 15 minutes at the beginning, can you do it? And it's like, it depends on what it is. If it's just a slap, yeah, sure. But I like to, if possible, especially if it's at a college or students, get an hour that I can just teach everybody a couple little exercises that show you how fake it is and how much it's about acting and how you are basically selling it. That usually makes it easier than than just about it. If I was going to start with 2 actors and start from scratch and just say, okay, neither one of you really have any experience, and it's a sword fight. Okay, let's start working with the swords. It's very hard to get somebody there without giving them some bit of sort of background or some bit of anchor that they can understand how this all works.
Are you called on often,
Yeah.
more or less now? Are you called more or less same as you have been in the past?
No, I'm not often now because I just don't pursue it. So if anybody asks me, I do it. But if they ask me, they know me.
You talked about pratfalls also, and I saw Red Maple, and
Yeah.
there is some physicality in it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that require fight choreography?
Yeah. You're talking about the Cap Rep production, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I was the writer, they did not want me to be the fight choreographer. So David Gerard was the fight choreographer on Red Maple at Cap Rep. David Gerard was my student for fight choreography. So David Gerard, he did a wonderful job, but he would kind of look toward me in rehearsal and say, what do you think? I wasn't supposed to say what I thought. But he did a great job. That it required, because I just did it for the curtain call production that just closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have spent 2 hours, 1 hour to basically show the actors the moves, go over them several times so everybody kind of knew the moves. Another hour later on to sort of get it a little more up to speed, work on the vocalizations and the acting dynamics of it. But there was also a very good actress in the production they just did. Her name is Tanya Gorlow, who had a lot of fight choreography experience or fighter experience. So she volunteered to be fight captain, and she would run a fight call before every rehearsal, even after the first hour that I did. So
Actually,
that was very helpful.
I ushered last weekend, and so I was there an hour before the show, and all of a sudden from the theater, we just hear all this screaming and yelling. I was like, what's going on? And then I realized, oh, they're doing fight call.
No, and to me, the whole purpose of a fight call is to remind yourself of precision. So I'm never concerned with doing it up to tempo or anything like that. I am concerned with absolute precision every single time, so that every day you were reminding yourself of that precision, because if you don't, by the second week, somebody's a little different, timing's a little different, targeting's a little bit different, and all of a sudden, you start to run into problems.
David, we've got 9 minutes, actually a little less because we like to have time to say goodbye. But I want to just shift gears to you being a playwright. And as an actor, to now putting the words in someone's mouth.
Yeah.
Take us on that journey.
I started writing. Patty and I got married and moved to New York City in 1981. And I could not get any kind of acting work to save my life. I mean, I did all the right things and, went to everything I could in backstage and tried to get an agent and all that stuff, but just was waiting tables basically. And that's when I started writing, and I was a good solid C English student in my school career. I really was not a reader or a writer. But as much as anything, just to keep myself active, to do something creative. And I'd worked construction for a few years before I ever found theater. So I had some stories that I could think about putting together from that. And I kind of caught the bug. So I always wrote, for years, I would write film scripts because I was more of a film buff than a theater buff, to be honest. So I don't know, it's interesting. I think it helps an awful lot that I'm an actor, because I do speak scenes. I play all the characters in a scene, see if it's comfortable coming out of my own mouth and if things flow and make sense. I'll tell you one thing that changed with being a writer and having actors do my lines is I so more thoughtful of the precision of the exact words on the page. It's something like Red Maple that has all this patter and jokes and rhythm and back and forth. I spent years on the exact wording of those lines. How many P's do I put in a sentence? Is it funnier if there's more P's in it? So, how can I word it so there's more P's in it? Things like that. So I'm very appreciative. Let me put it that way. I'm extremely appreciative when the actors are accurate with the words that are on the page.
And the journey of Red Maple. Yeah. The journey of Red Maple, obviously going through the next act submissions with Capitol Repertory Theater, and then now bringing it to Curtain Call. How's that journey been for you in terms of, did you adapt the play a lot as it was going through these iterations?
I did this time. My wife directed it this time. A lot of it's not autobiographical specifically, but I certainly wrote it at a time when we were empty nesters, kind of figuring out our relationship. So there is a certain amount of biography there. And she always felt that it was very, very strongly a story between John and Karen, the two people who live in the condo, getting back together, and will they get back together? And so originally when I wrote it, I kind of made it equal parts comedy, goofy, zany, them getting back together, lots of things. So we worked together to strengthen the scenes between John and Karen, and took out interruptions that used to be sort of more zany. Somebody's running through while they're trying to have a serious scene. Took people out of those scenes so that it would be more of an emphasis on their relationship. And so many people came up to me at the Curtain Call production and said it was so different, that they cared so much about John and Karen and whether they got back together, and they really followed that journey. And they still thought it was silly and goofy and hilarious and stuff like that. But I think between my tweaking and Patty's direction, that she really did focus it on their relationship. So that was a journey.
When there's a table read before,
You went mute. I lost you.
I got
Sorry.
it. There we go. It happens. Ellen wanted me to shut up. No, when Capital Rep, they'll do table reads
Mm-hmm.
with a new production, and I've done that. I did that with Red Maple. I've done some of that. I'm wondering how the director, when you're sitting there and hearing those words, and then hearing the feedback from the performers before it's been set, give us a sense of what that experience is like. Is it? I wonder if there's discomfort in it. How honest should somebody be?
I don't know. It might have been at one time, but I've long since, and especially if you go to production like Red Maple did at Cap Rep, by the time you're in production, you have had to explain every sentence you wrote, every line you wrote to somebody. Everybody's asking questions about everything. So you really go through, and with the director, you really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So you've explained everything, you've had everything questioned. At this point, I love all feedback, and because I get ideas and I have a good sense of myself, and if I think something is not helpful, fine with me. So what? Thank you very much, but I won't be using it. But if somebody has a good idea, in an early iteration of Red Maple, the female character who, it's already happened, so I don't worry about spoilers, but there's a female character who at the beginning appears to be one person, and then the second act is another person. And in an early iteration, she only appeared in the second act. And Maggie at Rep was the one that said early on, she said, I really think you ought to meet that character in the first act. And that sparked the idea in my head. She basically is faking as a real estate agent. That whole thing was just Maggie's idea of, we should see her in the first act. And she didn't suggest how, why, when, or anything else. But all of a sudden I went, how could we see her in the first act? And then my brain started going, kind of like it does. So I'm always up for, now I will be 100% honest. There's a little part of me that says, okay, I've been working on this for 3 years and you read it once. And now you got some ideas. Okay. So, but that doesn't mean I won't listen. And if somebody says something interesting, I'll be very interested in it. It's just, I have a different perspective about how well they know the material.
David, we've so enjoyed this act with you. I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and we don't say goodbye now, Ellen, we're in trouble.
Yeah. So yes, thank you so much for joining us today. And everybody go party with us on October 27th at the Craft Theater Festival kickoff party. Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. See you next time. David, thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.